Hello and welcome to Tech Policy Central's interview of John Peha. John, great to have you here today.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Introduce yourself.
I'm John Peha. I'm Chief Technologist at the Federal Communications Commission and also a professor at Carnegie Mellon University.
Can you tell me a bit more about your background?
Sure. Started, I guess, as an engineer, PhD in electrical engineering, and I've spent much of my career as a professor at Carnegie Mellon, but also bounced out and been chief technical officer to 3 different startups, and little time in government service, some in Congress about 10 years ago, and now here.
Fantastic. So tell us, what does the FCC CTO do?
Well, I guess the short answer is I work on things that are of importance to the chairman of the FCC. I report to the chairman, and that can vary a lot. I try and provide advice, information, analysis to the chairman and to the other commissioners, sometimes on current issues, whatever's hot and that involves technology, to try and help them understand the decisions they'll make. And sometimes I'm also asked to work on things that are not currently before the FCC and investigate things and help the chairman try and figure out what maybe ought to be on the agenda sometime in the future.
Well, actually, it's probably worth also mentioning, what is the scope of technology relative to the FCC? What does that include?
The scope is enormous. The scope includes wireless systems of all kinds. It includes telephone systems, cable systems, satellite in different ways than the above, the internet, radio, all kinds of communications, basically. Actually, one nice thing about my job is, while the FCC has many bureaus specializing in different areas, because of the way the job is constructed, I can actually bounce from issues in one bureau to another depending on what the needs are, where I can best be useful.
Fantastic. So what are some of your goals as FCC's CTO?
Well, I certainly don't come here with an agenda in terms of issues. That wouldn't be appropriate. But my primary goal is to help the decision makers make sure that whatever they end up deciding, even if I don't agree with it, that they understood their options, that they understood the nuances, there are no unintended consequences, because particularly on highly technical matters, the details really matter, and sometimes if you don't understand fully the technology as well as the economics and the law, something bad can happen. So, and also I get to bring in my expertise gained from outside the commission and try and offer that here.
Are there any particular issues that you're maybe more interested in of any sort that you'll have to be dealing with?
Well, I mean, I guess partially I am interested in whatever is most compelling on the agenda, and that I know there's some things that are compelling on the current chairman's agenda. There were in the last chairman. We'll see what the next chairman's agenda are. I guess I'll also probably favor things where I'm probably most useful in issues where the FCC has historically been less involved with, but I have been more involved. For example, in television, there's a lot of expertise in this building. They've been working on this for years. There's been less work at the FCC in the internet space, and it happens to be something I've worked in off and on since the 80s. So there's an area I can maybe contribute a little more. But wherever I am most useful is where I'll go.
I know one of the particular initiatives that you're pushing forward is the reformation of the Technology Advisory Committee. Can you tell people a bit of what that is and what they're going to be doing?
Yeah, the idea of the Technological Advisory Council, or TAC, is that we'll bring in some of the best and brightest engineers from across the country, outside government, hopefully a group with diverse backgrounds and diverse expertise, and we'll be able to provide input and guidance to the FCC. Actually, just like me coming from outside with a background in startups and academia, it's useful to have people coming from elsewhere and contributing. So probably, ideally, looking more further ahead than the very issue that has to be decided this month. So we just actually put out a request for nominations. An avalanche of nominations has recently arrived, and I hope we'll be putting together the council fairly soon.
Fantastic. Kind of building off of that, what opportunities do people have outside of DC, outside of the Beltway, to help contribute to this process?
And the TAC is an example, although it will be a fairly limited number of very knowledgeable people. There are actually lots of ways. It's easier than people think. Most of the major decisions are made around here after ideas are put out for comment. All of that is on the web. They solicit comments back, and anybody can write and submit their ideas, and somebody here will be reading those ideas and collecting them. To pick a very current example, one of the most important things happening here right now is related to broadband. We have, among other things, there will be the first U.S. Official sort of broadband strategic plan developed. That process has begun, and it will complete next year. And the first step in that process, or among them, was the FCC put out what's called a notice of inquiry, which was an enormous list of very hard questions. And
I think 59 pages?
That sounds about right. And we're looking for good ideas. So, for example, people who have ideas about what the U.S. strategic broadband plan ought to look like can look at those questions, and even questions we haven't thought of, and can submit their ideas for the record, and anyone else will be able to read them through the FCC website.
Fantastic. I mean, it must be an enormous challenge to go through all those comments. I know for like the stimulus plan, there was something like 1,300 comments that came into RUS and NTIA, and that's just for that somewhat limited scope relative to the national broadband policy, which is a much larger scope. How do you guys handle all these comments?
I guess we'll find out on the broadband plan when they get here. But yeah, many of these do generate a lot of input. There are teams of people. We had one recently where a dozen people went through comments and dissected them, tried to combine them by putting similar ideas together, and we pool our thoughts and the wisdom we can draw from them. Also, lots of individuals will just search through and try and find, in addition to the collective work, did anybody look at that particular question? Who might have an idea on that? And we'll run through the files.
Excellent. Are you guys also looking at different ways to be able to use technology to make the FCC run better? To be able to do things like crowdsourcing and being able to pull in expertise, not just for ideas, but maybe for reviewing some of these things. I'm just kind of curious where you guys are at in your mindset regarding the use of technology at the FCC.
There are some ideas that might make information more accessible to people outside, and might make it easier for people outside to submit. I think there are at this moment people looking at ways to, looking at our website, look at other things we can do. I think you'll see some of those if you follow the website coming in the future.
Excellent. You mentioned earlier about how broadband is going to be a significant issue moving forward. Would you agree that that's maybe the most significant issue, and that it's going to require quite a bit of kind of shifting and mentality to the way we're used to treating communications in this country?
There are a number of very big questions. I don't know if I want to rank public safety communications to a number of wireless issues. There are a number of really hot things, but it's certainly a major one. I mean, the broadband infrastructure plays a very important role in the U.S. economy, in U.S. society, in lots of applications that may matter a lot, from improving healthcare to improving energy efficiency, and we need the right infrastructure to make all that happen. So.
Excellent. I'm curious, what does broadband mean to you personally? Not based on speed, but and how you use it.
Well, as someone, actually, I spend much of my time here at the FCC, but I still have a research lab back in Pittsburgh, in fact, with collaborators on several continents. So broadband, it would not be fun for me to travel to, well, actually it might be fun for me to travel to Portugal every week and then back, but it's a whole lot easier to make use of broadband and to be able to collaborate with some of the best people around the world wherever my computer is.
Fantastic. Well, we wish we could have had you out in San Francisco, but thank you so much for taking the time to sit down for this interview today.
Thank you. I wish I could be out there as well, but hope everyone will be learning a great deal, and we'll send some of that wisdom back to Washington, D.C.